All right. Hey, beautiful people. Listen, it is a beautiful day to be alive. It absolutely is. And I'm really, really keen on presenting this show for you today. Because the story that you're going to hear today is really a story of redemption, a story of forgiveness, a story of reinvention. And really, for me, it's just a story of a really dope individual. So I'm excited to present this to you today. And I'll tell you, I want to thank you also because the kickoff of season 2 has been going very well. Our numbers are up in terms of subscriptions. The streams are up, and I appreciate that. And the only reason that's happening is because of you, because there are people who are really resonating with the content and are supporting it. And so I certainly do appreciate that. And remember, we have a goal, and that's goal 141. For those of you who are not familiar, goal 141, goal 141. Goal 141 is this: 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, 4,000 watch hours, and 1,000 streams per month on the various other channels. And that's important because believe me, doing this kind of thing, it does indeed cost money. And 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours are what you need to get monetized on YouTube. So that's our goal. So it's nothing that's too lofty, nothing that can't be done. But in order to do that, I need your support. So how do you do that? You do that by, first of all, smashing the like button if you're watching this video right now, but also subscribing to the channel. And if you really rock with us, what I need you to do also is hit that notification bell so that you'll know when we're putting new content out there. The other thing we're doing is we are going live. Typically right now it's on Wednesday. It's every other Wednesday. This podcast usually, there's a new episode every other Wednesday on the podcast, but the Wednesdays that we're not doing a new episode, I'm going live. Why? Because I want to give you the opportunity to have voice. I want to give you the opportunity to air your opinions, your thoughts, or even to ask questions. And sometimes we'll have guests on that live, but you will always be able to have input on that live. And I'll even bring you up on camera. So it's called My Big Full Authentic Live Real Talk. This is when we can really address the questions that you have, either from previous episodes or just things you're dealing with now. So the idea behind this is to build a supportive community that you can really be a part of, and you can get the support that you need, or you can be the support that someone else needs. So that's what this thing is about, y'all. It's about living that big, full, authentic life. So one of the other ways that we are supporting the channel is through sponsorship. And I want to introduce you to my sponsor. So for those entrepreneurs and business owners out there, I need you to understand something. 3 out of 4 people judge your business's legitimacy solely based on the way that things look. I'm talking about aesthetic appeal. And Thing Hat Thing, our sponsor, that's what they help you do. They're a digital marketing firm that helps you with your digital presence. In other words, they help you look good so that you can focus on what you do best, and that's running your business. They work with small to medium-sized businesses to make certain that their digital presence, while beautiful and while gleaming, was simple because they took on the hassle for it. They took on the headache so that you can do what you do. So if you're really ready to take your digital image to the next level, I want you to contact the folks at Thing Hat Thing. Their website is thtcreative.com. That's thtcreative.com, and tell them that I sent you so they'll know that they got that referral from a show that's about uplifting, that's a positive, and that's about bringing people together. And they are good people, and that's what they're all about as well. So yeah, check out Thing Hat Thing, thtcreative.com. Well, I tell you what, let's not hold back any longer. Let's go ahead and join in to this story of resilience, of repentance, of forgiveness, of reinvention. Let's do it. This is about the journey, your journey. What's your purpose? Hey, beautiful people, I want to welcome you to My Big Full Authentic Life. This is the podcast that's all about helping people live that big, full, authentic life on purpose. And today I have an incredible guest for you. My guest today has a story that will captivate and inspire you. Imagine enduring decades of relentless battles with crack cocaine, heroin, alcohol, prescription opioids. Picture accumulating 37 felonies, countless misdemeanors, and facing the harsh reality of both state and federal prison sentences. Visual life. Visualize a life overshadowed by the loss of four siblings to the same devastating disease and witnessing the horrors of death and violence right before your very eyes. And think about grappling with the heart wrenching inability to form genuine connections with your own children. Well, despite these overwhelming odds and the pivotal moments of what happened in life, there was a moment of clarity after a personal loss led to this guest seeking treatment and it changed their life. This turning point marked the beginning of an extraordinary transformation from landing a job while still in treatment to pursuing higher education and founding a successful consulting business. Her journey is nothing short of remarkable. But her story, it doesn't end there. She has faced unspeakable drama, including molestation, rape, domestic violence, so many things that railroaded her life. Being abandoned as a child and being subjected to emotional and physical abuse. She fought against all odds and emerged as a beacon of hope and an inspiration. Today, she is on a mission to help others see their full potential and reclaim control of their lives. Her journey from victim to survivor and ultimately to a guiding light for others is a testament to the boundless possibilities of the human spirit. So, I want you to join us today as we uncover the awe inspiring story of a true testament of the power of faith, resilience, and the will to live an authentic life. So, would you please, please, please give a warm welcome to Keisha Simon? Keisha, welcome.
Hi, hi, LaMondré.
Listen, your intro and,
Wow.
and and your story is really amazing. I am so pleased that that you chose to join us, that you chose to join us today, and I am simply thrilled that we're about to have this conversation because in my heart of hearts, I believe that it's going to free someone today.
It's a pleasure being here. I got a little teary eyed when you were introducing me, just thinking, wow, that was my life. Like
Yeah,
that was my real life. Like I really endured those things. So yeah, it gets deep.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I am thrilled that you're willing to share. I am thrilled that you're willing to come on a platform like this and be transparent about your life. So this is what I want to do. I want to jump right into it. As I said in the intro, we talked about 36 years of crack cocaine, um, 10 years of heroin and even longer than that with alcohol abuse. Let's start from the beginning. Kind of give me your genesis. Tell me your beginning story.
Well, Lamondre, it goes back to having a childhood that I thought was normal
Hmm.
because it was my norm. You know, I
Right.
didn't know anything else. And during that period, I was exposed to a lot of things that were not beneficial to me from being molested by a close family member, at least going back to 4 years old, I can remember. Then growing up through that and not having a mother, not ever
Mm.
really feeling wanted or like I really belonged anywhere. And as with a lot of us African Americans, we get passed around from family member to family member. Your aunt is your mom, your grandpa, everything except the person that's supposed to be your mom. So it was
Right.
just from the very beginning, it's like life was stacked, not in my favor. So at a very early age, I started drinking. uh, I would steal the alcoholic beverages out of the refrigerator from my grandparents' house and I would drink it. And immediately I would just feel this sense of calm and the
Mm.
sense of peace. And I was no longer fretful about who was going to do what or if somebody was going to touch me or say something. I found solace in alcohol. And that continued until a little bit my early teens. I started experimenting with marijuana, and
Hmm.
it immediately went from marijuana to powdered cocaine at like 16 years old. Like I'm 16
Wow.
and I'm cutting school and I'm in the park drinking Thunderbird and snorting cocaine and selling cocaine and just
So
living
at
the life that I thought.
16, at
at
16, you're
16.
doing heavy drugs.
At 16, I was doing heavy drugs, not even realizing the type of drug that I'm consuming,
Right.
not really realizing the impact that cocaine would eventually have on my life because I'm with my friends and we're the wild bunch, we're the party girls, and this is what we do.
Yeah.
It went
Now
from
what?
that
No,
to
go ahead. No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna say it went from snorting cocaine at 16 to 17 to being introduced, I'm sorry, to crack cocaine at 18.
Mm.
And that's when it was off to the races.
Right. So I want to back up a little bit, just because I want to
Okay.
kind of frame the time frame that this
Okay.
happened in. I mean, we already know the age, but we're talking. Let's see. I'm assuming that we're close in age, so I'm assuming that
Hmm.
this was like, the '80s,
Uh-huh.
when the crack epidemic really swept through our communities. So
Exactly.
and because you started so early, you mentioned the fact that that your mom wasn't there. You said not having a mom. Kind of explain that situation a little bit for me.
My I left my mom when I was 2 weeks old. From my understanding, my dad was abusive, and she wanted to get away from that. And then getting away from that, she left me with my dad and my grandfather to go back to Fort Lauderdale to get herself together. And she did come back for me, but by the time she came back for me, I had formed bonds and attachments with my grandparents, and I did not recognize her as my
Right.
mother at 5 years old. Like,
And
you're
was
this
that
lady
here in
that's.
and was that here in South Carolina?
I was in New Jersey.
In New
I
Jersey
was
at
in
the
New
time.
Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get to South Carolina until I was 15 years old.
Okay. Okay. So you're in
Hmm.
Jersey with your father's family because your mother had left to leave an abusive situation. And by the time she
Right,
came back for you, you were already ingrained with your
right,
father's side of the family in New Jersey there.
right.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
I
When she
did not
came back, about
want
how
to.
old were you when she came back?
I remember her coming back for me when I was in the first grade. So that
Okay.
was six. And I had spent time with her in between, but it was always just a couple days and then I could go back home.
Mhm.
But I
Right.
remember in the first grade, I went to Fort Lauderdale and I was supposed to remain there. And I was horrified. Like I
Right.
didn't know those people and they don't they don't, I don't know them, and they don't eat what I eat, and they don't live how we live, and there's all these kids in here, and they don't have any money, and it's, oh my God, it was horrible.
Yeah, it would have
And
completely it would have completely uprooted everything that you knew up until
it
that
did.
point. Right.
It did. And I remember my mom, I call her my mom now because we actually do have a really good relationship that I'm grateful for. But she told me that she came into my room one night and she overheard me praying. And she said that I asked God to please send me back home because my mom needs me. And I was referring to my grandmother. And she said that she knew at that point that I would never be content with just being with her.
Right.
And so I was able to go back to my grandparents. And my grandfather, he taught me everything that I know.
Mhm.
Everything. The best man to ever walk the face of this earth was Henry Lee Simon. I stand 10 toes down on that. But
Right.
my grandfather was not very attentive to me being a little girl.
Mhm.
Um, he didn't, I wasn't taught about sex,
Okay.
and I came up in a day and age where this stuff, it was not, I didn't see it. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't on TV like it is now. It's everywhere
Right.
now.
Right. It's thrown
TVs,
at you now.
commercials,
It's thrown
movies.
at you now.
Right. And back in the 70s, the late 60s, early 70s, that didn't happen. The TV shows, they didn't even sleep in the same beds, the parents didn't. So there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of exposure to sexual things and things of that nature. So when my cousin began to touch me, I didn't know that it was wrong.
Right. What
And
what age was this?
I remember preschool when he told me not to make sure not to tell anyone that he was my boyfriend. So I went to preschool at four and
Mm.
a half, 5 years old.
Okay.
That's my earliest memory of like being in a bathroom with him at that age
Okay.
and us having a conversation for me not to tell anyone that he was my boyfriend. The way he approached that situation, LaMondré, and maybe why I never told anyone till I was 30 something years old, is he didn't threaten me and he didn't hurt me physically. He portrayed himself as my boyfriend, and I actually liked him. And
Mm.
this is where it gets really psychologically twisted because
Right.
I'm forming bonds and attachments with the person that's molesting me as if he is my boyfriend. And so when it got to the point where I finally was able to verbalize what had happened, there was a point where I thought that the same thing might have happened to my daughter. And I asked her about it. And in asking her, I told her why I needed her to tell me the truth because this is what happened to me. And so
Mm.
that was the first time that anyone in the family ever knew that happened to me. And I was 34, 35 years old.
And so from that time up until then, you had never said anything, had never voiced anything. Now, did he live in the house with you all?
He did not live with me. We were in Plainfield and they were in Jersey City, which is about a 25-minute ride. Most of the times he would come over with his family, which was my uncle. And then sometimes he would come over by himself on the train. And my grandparents would leave me with him while they went to go do things because they didn't have a clue.
Right. Right. Never
Yeah, they
had a
didn't
clue
have
this
a
was
clue.
happening.
And it didn't really get like physical until, okay, I'm just gonna be honest. He didn't actually have sex with me until I had had sex with other people.
Okay.
So there weren't any signs really for my grandparents to be able to, figure it out. And again, he never like hurt me. I
Right.
wasn't fearful. I wasn't fearful of him. It wasn't the type of situation where I was threatened. And if you tell anybody, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He took the opposite role. He took the role of a boyfriend of someone that I have this emotional attachment with, and he's doing these things to me. I don't know they're wrong. They don't necessarily feel bad, and
Right.
it was not discussed.
So psychologically, with all of
That's
that
it.
confusion going on and
Mhm.
everything, it really presented a really warped and twisted situation, which you turned to alcohol in order to try and reconcile,
Mhm.
not knowing that that's what you were doing.
Right. Because we can have trauma that we cannot identify. It's unidentified trauma. And even if I'm not, even if I don't know that this is wrong consciously, there's that subconscious part of it. So with consuming the alcohol and then later the cocaine and the crack, it was a form of me protecting myself from myself
Hmm.
and from those memories because it kind of gets like tucked away, and it's not something that I thought about on a regular basis. And it was actually his sister that had to remind me of what we had all went through when it came down to my daughter. And she said, Keisha, you act like you forgot. And when she said that, LaMondré, it was just like floodgates
So
just open.
she had been molested too
Oh, yeah, it was me and two of his sisters.
by him.
Hmm.
Mm,
And this was a cycle that continued on up until I don't know if it stopped, but at some point in time, his wife had foster children. He ended up being arrested, and that was like in 2000 or something.
oh
So
my
we're talking
goodness.
about a span of 40 plus years with him with that type of behavior. But we also know that the studies indicate that predatory people like that, they don't usually stop on
Right.
their own. Something usually happens to stop them, where somebody usually finally speaks up, or they get caught, they get arrested, or they get exposed.
Right. Now, were there ever any rumblings in the family? Was there any ever any? Because a lot of times people will know something is going on, but for some reason in our culture, a lot of times people don't say anything, and they'll know that, oh, don't leave your child around this person or that, but no one ever actually does anything. In some
Right.
instances, it's not pervasive, but in some instances, and I know we
Yeah.
don't talk about it enough within our
Yeah.
families.
We don't. But as in my family, if there were, I wasn't aware of it.
Hmm.
Because I come from a generation where children should be seen and not heard. So if
Right.
they were having those discussions, I wasn't privy to it. I do know that at one point we were in riding in a car, and we were in the back of the car, and he was touching me, and my grandmother turned around. She said, "What are you doing? What, I don't know what y'all doing back there, but you need to stop." And nothing else was said about it, but I do believe at that point she had some kind of idea
Yeah.
because of the way that she said that. I don't know what y'all are doing back there, but you better stop.
Yeah, and that's wild because obviously, if that's the case, then you knew something inappropriate was happening,
Yeah.
but for some reason did not address the inappropriateness. And if that happened there, she had to know, or at least there had to be the suspicion that it probably happened elsewhere.
I
Um,
would believe so. I would believe so, Lamondre. I don't know because that's a conversation that by the time I bought all of this out, they were already gone. It
right,
already passed on. So yeah, I've never had an opportunity, to ask. But you are exactly right about our culture is what happens in the house stays in the house. And too many times we take things and we do sweep it under the rug, and we have no idea of the type of trauma that's been inflicted on someone. Because here I am now with all of the drugs, the alcohol. Then when I do get into treatment, and now I'm forced to face this, And you're telling me that I should feel like this, and I should hate my molester, and I should feel all these ways that I did not feel.
Right.
So it made me question my character. Am I, some of the names that I've been called growing up? Am I a whore? Am I a tramp? Am I this?
Mm,
Why don't I hate this person? Like
mm,
what is wrong with me? How could I possibly like something that's so wrong?
right.
And it took me a minute to understand we're human. We're human and our bodies have responses.
Our bodies have responses.
Friction,
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Friction causes combustion. Like if you touch something and it's a certain something, if it feels good, it just feels good.
Yeah. And I also think that the other piece of that is that emotions are complex. That it's not always oh, this happens, there's all automatically hate. No.
Right,
When you're dealing with human emotions, particularly when you're talking about bonds that have been formed, sometimes they don't follow logical sequence.
right,
Sometimes they don't make sense. Not always, but sometimes they simply don't make sense. And you have to figure out how do you deal with that because it causes, as you said, you to question yourself. It causes you to
hmm
say, "Wait a minute, what is wrong?" And I'm doing air quotes. I can't pick up my hand, so y'all can't see my air quotes. But
I
I'm
do it
doing
for you.
air quotes. What is wrong with me that I don't feel hatred? What is wrong with me
Right,
that there was a sense of that there was a sense of connection and love
right,
attached to this when it was obviously something that was evil and malicious
right,
that was being done.
right.
And I'll tell you that is so much a part of what we grapple with when we're really trying to live from an authentic place is
Mhm,
reconciling those things that don't make logical sense. That's about us in our core, you know.
mhm.
Wow, there's so many angles that I want to discuss with that and go deep into that. But I want to move us forward just a tad bit. So at 18,
Okay,
you're introduced to crack. Um,
right.
at 18. Now, how did that introduction happen, and what happened as a result of that?
Well, that is one LaMondre that I have to take my own ownership of because it was not offered to me. I demanded it. I was
You
at my
demanded it.
cousin's house. I demanded it because I'm grown at this point. But they were getting high and they were passing around the crack because it was in abundance. They were just chopping it up and just passing it around. And the guy that was passing it around, he didn't know that I didn't do it because I was upstairs, with everybody else. So I would take the stuff that he gave me and I put it in my cigarette pack and I just held on to it. And I'd ask, okay, are you going to let me do it? Are you going to show me how to smoke it? And my cousin was a hard no. It was an immediate no. No, you're not doing this. But yet I'm still sitting up here with everybody else. At some point, the guy that had all of the drugs, he left to go on to wherever he was going. And I had two cousins left there, and they didn't have any more. And they wanted some more. And I had a bag of it because all of the stuff that he had given me, I kept it because I didn't know how to smoke it. And so they wanted me to give them some of what I had, offering to pay for it. No, I wouldn't sell it. Basically, I said, I'm not giving you anything unless you show me how to smoke it. It was
Mm,
another no for about 5 minutes. And then he was like, okay, look, F it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. This is what you do. And of course, the first time I put the pipe in my mouth backwards and I burned my lip swollen, but I turn it around.
wasn't for you.
He shows me how to smoke it, and I blow this smoke out, Lamondre, and I thought I was in heaven.
Mm,
I did. It was the best feeling I had ever had. I've never had that type of mental, psychological, or physical rush,
mm.
and I liked it immediately.
Mhm.
immediately. I continued to do it. And a lot of times at work when we're having a discussion, there's an invisible line somewhere that we cross over from just actively using something to full-blown addiction. I don't know where I crossed that line, but I do know that from the time I was 18 years old, it was continuous. It was
Mhm.
it
So
was
it was a
continual.
continuous
Like,
fixture in your life.
uh-huh. And I believe that because I started at such a young age and I was still living at home, so I had to hide it, from my grandparents, from my grandfather really, because that was not accepted. So I had to learn how to not let my mouth twist like that
Mhm.
drug can sometimes force you to do. I had to learn how to keep my eyes lowered and not let my eyes bug out because I didn't want my grandfather to know what I was doing. I had to learn how to eat food while I'm getting high so that he doesn't ask, "Why aren't you eating?" So, in trying to hide what I was doing from him, it kind of allowed me to function on somewhat of a normal level
Mm.
because
Okay.
I could eat and I could go to sleep and I could hold conversations. I could go to work until I couldn't.
Right. And the thing that I hear is you found a way to camouflage all of the telltale signs that people would
Mhm.
traditionally look for to say, "Hey, this
Mhm.
person is an addict. This person is 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 a smoker." And
Exactly.
on that. So how did
Exactly.
that
It was
go ahead.
all I'm sorry. It was all smoke and mirrors throughout the whole time that I was doing it. Because if I don't dress a certain way, or if I don't keep my weight up, or if I don't drive a certain type of vehicle, better yet, if I don't pay my light bill, if my utilities get shut off, somebody's gonna be asking some questions.
Right.
So I have to pay the light bill or else somebody's going to be asking some questions. I have to have food in the house for the children or for Isaiah, or else somebody's going to be asking some questions. So it was smoke and mirrors.
And so you just maintaining everyday life became a facade to support the habit.
Hmm. Exactly. It was all so that I could continue to do my drugs without being questioned.
Exactly, and that's what I mean. So, like, in other words, the way you presented normalcy in life was really
Hmm.
only so that you could continue to do the drugs and those kinds of things. And you knew that if any of
Absolutely.
those things went lacking, people would ask questions and there may have been an intervention.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do not when I tell my story, I don't lie and say I provided for my son or my children because of the love that I had for him or for them. That was not the case. I did what I did so that my addiction could remain unnoticed.
Right.
Because in not doing any one of these things, how am I going to explain that?
Right. 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 Right.
And
So how
anything
does
that
this
could have
no, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say anything that could have possibly come between me and my drugs wasn't optional.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
optional, and it basically it robbed me of being able to form any type of bond with my children, any bond with any type of substance anyway, or any bond with anyone. It's like being a prisoner in your own world, in your own bubble, and
Right. In fact,
everything.
I was going to say, in fact, one of your quotes, one of your exact quotes was, "It's impossible for an addict to form attachments and bonds." Like that's a
I
direct
I
quote
stand,
from you.
I stand on that.
Yeah. I had never saw or heard a statement like that before. And when I read that as I was doing research to for this particular episode, that stood out to me. And so you
Mm,
talk about not really having a real bond or connection with your children. Let's explore that a bit because I know that there are a lot
okay.
of people that I've spoken with that talk about not having a bond with their mother. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that looks like and how you dealt with it then and how you deal with it now?
Okay. I believe that not having a mom prevented me from learning how to be a mom. I didn't have one, so I didn't know what that bond felt like, what it looked like, what it was supposed to be. I knew what I saw on TV and I knew what I saw in other family members that had that normal family structure, but that's just me looking at that from the outside in. With my life surrounded or just consumed with alcohol, drugs, jails, men, everything that I had going on, there's a time that I have to make sure that my children are safe, and being with me is not the safe place for them. So I placed them with my aunt and my grandfather. So now they're out of the house. I'm not allowed to see them like I want to. So what do I do with that? I distance myself. I distance myself. And now we're talking about a temporary situation has now become a situation that's been years. That's been
Mhm.
years. I believe that when we are active in our addiction, drugs come first. We might not want to admit that truth or that honesty, but it does. You would choose that first over anything. And when I say that it doesn't allow you to form bonds with your children, you may have a superficial bond, but you can't form a real attachment bond because you're not even living in reality.
Mm.
You're escaping reality every day. And being that we have that need to escape our reality, it's not really possible to form things that are real, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely does because in that sense, the only thing that is real is the connection to this drug. The only things that make
Hmm.
sense, the only things that matter, are connections to that addiction, I should say, because addictions can be other things other
Right,
than substances
right. It's not
as
about the
well.
substance; it's the addiction. Hmm.
It's the addiction, absolutely, absolutely. So now, for 36 years, you live this life for 36 years. You're
Hmm.
bound and locked to this particular thing. And you already talked about the fact that your life was a facade in terms of
Hmm.
being able to maintain that. But you've had some run-ins as well. Let's talk about some of the run-ins that you've had in terms of the felony charges and in terms of what
Okay.
you were doing to maintain that life and lifestyle so that you could get to the drugs.
Yeah. That to In order to maintain the lifestyle that I felt like I needed to maintain, Lamondre, there's not a job in the world that's gonna pay me enough to support my habit and take care of my children and my child and also the household bills. So I learned how to do credit card fraud. Don't ask me where or
Mm,
how, I don't know. I thought of it one day, I tried it and it worked. And I learned very quickly the formula for the credit card applications for Chase, Discover, and Citibank. Those were three formulas that I knew on the top of my head where I could just go on any computer and fill out the application and have a credit card, a brand new card mailed. And so that's what I did. And I did it to such an extent that I caught the attention of the postmaster general. And he is the guy that's over every post office in the United States of America. He's based in Atlanta, Georgia. And he comes up to Columbia looking for me, except he doesn't know that I'm me. He's looking for this person that has these credit cards going all over like 6 or 7 states. He's looking for that person. He ends up in a bar with the Secret Service guy that's also looking for me. And so they have a conversation by chance, and they're both looking for this person. They didn't know who I was, they knew what I was doing.
Wait a minute. Let's set the scenario again. So the postmaster general and a guy from the
Yes.
CIA, was it right?
The Secret Service, Homeland Security.
Homeland Security, okay. And Homeland Security
Mhm.
randomly go to a bar where they start speaking
Yes.
and they recognize that they're
Yes.
both looking for um the alias of you.
Yes. They're both looking for the
Keisha.
same person. Yes. When they told me that story, when they finally were able to lay hands on me, they thought it was hilarious. I didn't think it was that funny, but I
Right.
do
I bet you
now.
didn't think it was funny. I bet you didn't think it was funny.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Let's kind of move forward. So how did they discover
Okay.
you, and what was that like
Well,
when you were found?
okay. I made a mistake one day. God bless the day. I was with my friend Rose, and I had forgot to pay my utility bill, and my utilities were going to be shut off the next morning. And of course, you know that absolutely cannot happen. So I pick up the phone and I call SCE&G, and I pay my light bill with one of the credit cards that I was using. And as soon as I hung the phone up, I looked at Rose and I said, I just messed up. I said, I just messed up. I said, I'm going to jail. She was like, no, you might be. I said, no, 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 no. It's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. So at that
So
point,
you
I
knew at that
start
very
making
point
arrangements.
that that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's all they needed because they could never put a face with the person. Like when I go into an ATM, the ATM cameras aren't on until you put the card into the machine. So I would always cover it before I put the card in, and I leave it on for 10 seconds after I remove the card. So they didn't have me at any ATMs, and stores only hold footage for like 30 days. So I basically knew how to stay out of the limelight. But when I paid that light bill, that's a direct link to me. And I used one of the cards that were in the batch of the fraudulent accounts that I was using. So now they have not just a name, but an address as well. And I don't know if you've read my book or not, but in my book, Indicted, the first 3 chapters are actually like they're factual. Like that's really how the Secret Service came to the house. They came and knocked. I didn't open the door. I opened the door at some later point when I thought that they had left, and they came back immediately. And it's like, open the door or we're gonna kick it in. And they come in, and it's the city of Columbia Police, is Richland County Sheriff's Department, is the United States Secret Service, Homeland Security, and it's the Postmaster General from Atlanta. And he is an officer because he has a gun too, and I never knew that. But I have all of these entities in my house in Woodland Terrace off of Beltline, and it's just me.
Mm,
They did not think that it was just me. They wanted to put me into witness WITSEC. They wanted to put me
yeah.
into witness protection program because they wanted me to tell who was this mastermind
They
that
wanted
I
you to
was
tell on the
working for.
boss.
Right, because surely this little crackhead little girl here is not the mastermind behind this scheme, but it absolutely was me. So I don't think I got it as bad as I would have if they would have known that it was me. They felt like I was just too afraid to tell them like who really had put everything together. But
Right.
it was me.
Right. Right. Right.
And
So
again, like I
with
said,
that,
that let me. Mhm.
No, go ahead.
I started making preparations to go to jail because I knew that it was going to happen. When they left, they took pictures of everything in the house and told me not to move anything. And they got something and they added up all of the things that were inside of my apartment. And the guy says, "You don't think it's weird that you have like $50,000 worth of furniture in a two-bedroom Section 8 apartment?" No, no, I don't. I don't think it's weird at all. But I called my mom and I asked her, can she come get Isaiah when I do get arrested? And she agreed, and that allowed me to relax a little bit because my older two children were with my auntie, and my mom was going to come get Isaiah. So of course, I just keep running. Like I didn't stop.
Right.
It didn't stop me because I don't know if you know it or not, but cocaine is one of the drugs that does not allow your brain to produce enough of the chemical that causes fear. So a
Mm.
lot of times when you see people, crackheads, whatever you want to call us, and we do all of these things that most people would be horrified to do, one of the reasons is that cocaine suppresses the chemical that's required to form fear.
Mm.
So
I
you're
didn't know
basically
that.
fearless. It
Yeah.
does. Absolutely.
Wow. And so then that was going to be that was going to be actually my follow up. So even that didn't stop you. So it was like, yeah, Postmaster General, Homeland Security, these people are in my house. They're taking pictures, they're taking everything. I know I'm going to jail, but I'm not stopping.
No, I made
Yeah.
sure that they couldn't find all of the social security numbers I had. I actually put them in the bottom of my shoes, and I took my drugs and I put it where the sun don't shine. And the whole entire time, the whole entire time that they're in my living room, I'm just wanting them to leave so that I can get high.
Right.
Stopping never crossed my mind. When I went in front of Judge Cameron, she did say that my life was unsalvageable. And I
Mm.
took offense to that. And that was the first time that I had ever admitted that I had a problem and asked for any type of help. I actually asked for a higher sentence on the federal charges so that I could have enough time to go through the drug program. And she asked me, was I sure? And I said, absolutely. But by her giving me a higher sentence than what she was originally going to give me, it allowed me to complete the RDAP program. And it also took 18 months off of my prison sentence, which I didn't know at the time that I asked. But that was the first time that I ever verbally said, I think I got a problem.
Right. When the judge said that your life was unsalvageable. Wow.
Hmm.
So the result of that and other things resulted in 37 felonies, um, three state bids and two federal bids after it was all
Hmm.
said and done. But
Yes.
none of that, it allowed you to see that you had a problem, but none of it was
Right.
enough to make you turn from the problem. Yeah.
Oh no, because it's on now. I
Yeah.
feel challenged. Like, okay, so I need to tighten this up because this
Gotcha.
absolutely cannot happen again. So what do I need to do to ensure that this doesn't happen again? It made me not want to get caught. Now I know exactly what not to do to not get caught again. It never crossed my mind to, even after completing our RDAP, which is residential drug abuse program, I would say that this was what I wanted to do, but internally it was not. I had no real desire to get off of the drugs because I liked the way they made me feel. Once I got introduced to the heroin, now we on a whole we in a whole other ballpark now because heroin, Percocet, Oxycontin, fentanyl, all of the opioids, they're physically You're physically dependent on it. Crack is not
Right.
physical, it's mental. But the opioids and alcohol, now we're talking about physical dependency. And this is a horse of a different color,
Right.
because the need to do this is actually now a need versus the want to do it when it's the cocaine. And it got so bad with the heroin and the opioids that I had three grown men to come and run into my house, and they're armed with 9 millimeters and AK-47s and 40 calibers, and it's three of them and it's just me. I would not give them my drugs.
Wow.
I could not give them my drugs even with a pistol. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even with a pistol in my mouth. Giving up that drug was not a viable option. I was willing to die.
Mm.
I was willing to let them kill me before I could give them that heroin.
Yeah.
That's how real it got.
Yeah. No, and yeah, that's unimaginable in terms of if somebody said, yeah, that's one of those scenarios that people put out there, gun to your head or this, and of course everybody says this, and very few people say that they would choose the route that you chose. So obviously that was in the throes of the depths of addiction. I mean, there's no question about that. But at some point, there was a turnaround. And let's talk about the turnaround because here's the thing. And obviously, I'm going to have you on the show again because there's so many elements in your story that I think deserves time to be explored and talked about. But we can't do it
Anytime.
just in this. But I do want to talk about the turnaround. What
Okay.
was it that really shook you and said, "Wait a minute, we got to do something different." Let's talk about what was that thing. Let's talk about the turnaround and how that happened.
There were a couple things that kind of started like tapping me on the shoulder a bit. Losing two brothers, losing two sisters, being with my cousin when she OD'd. Those deaths started to make me fearful.
And
Not
were 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 were, were these
necessarily
the
wanting.
results? Were these the results of substance abuse?
Yeah, absolutely,
All
absolutely.
five of them?
They be all 5.
Mm,
Plus numerous friends and other family members that I knew. That made me fearful that death is a possibility. Like it's really possible for me to die doing this. That did not make me want to change my life. It made me not want to die. Then there was a situation where my dog got hit by the car. And but prior to that was the first time that I've ever found myself by myself. Like my youngest child had left home and it was just me and my dog. And after I lost Tank, that was the first time that it was just me. And I didn't have any anchors. I didn't have anybody that needed me to take care of them. I didn't have anybody that was counting on me for food or housing or anything. It was just me. And I learned very quickly, LaMondré, that Keisha did not like Keisha.
mm,
I did not like myself at all. I was unable to take care of myself, even my basic needs. It went downhill very rapidly after losing Tank. I went into just like this mental downward spiral. And I wrote a letter to my daughter and I told her that I was using and that I wanted to get help. But then I got a call and I got some money. So I did not give her the letter because I wanted to go get high. But I left my notebook in her truck and she found it and she read the letter and she called me, and it's the first time we have a serious conversation about me and my problem. And she asked me, did I want to go and get help? And I said yes. And I said yes in thinking that this would be sometime down the line, maybe some months from now. Okay, yeah, sure, I want to do it. Not really wanting to, but okay, because it's my kid and I don't want. Well, that was a Thursday, and she had me on the plane that Sunday.
So from Thursday
She
to
did not.
Sunday,
Yep, yep, yep. She
go
did not
daughter.
mess around with it at all. It was about 2.5 days in between the time that I said, yes, I want to go get help, until the time that she had me on a plane going to Murfreesboro, Tennessee, to a program called Journey Pure.
Wow. Wow. You know what's interesting about that to me? You said it was when okay, you lost your siblings, you lost your cousin, and when your dog Tank, when Tank left you, it was a situation whereas you realized that you were alone and you didn't like yourself. But here's what I heard in that at the beginning of this interview, at the beginning of this conversation, really, we talked about the reason that you had normalcy in your life was so that you could continue to do the drugs. In other words, you
Mm-hmm,
kept everything anchored to enable you
mm-hmm,
to do
mm-hmm.
drugs and not be bothered. All
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
And as soon as that anchor left, as soon as you didn't
Mm-hmm,
have something to take care of, as soon as you didn't have
mm-hmm.
something to be responsible for, that's when you realize
Absolutely.
I don't like me and I need to do something to turn this around. And of course, divine intervention, your daughter reads the letter and
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. And I can't help but think that that was divine, that she saw
Absolutely.
that letter
Absolutely.
and moved so swiftly um, on your
Absolutely. It
behalf.
was divine that I had the insurance to go because I wasn't working anywhere. And I prayed and I asked God to help me get into treatment. And then I got the enrollment forms and I filled it out just on a humbug. And I had coverage for the entire 3.5 months that I was in treatment. When it was time for me to graduate, they called me to the office and told me the insurance was gone. And they were like, what happened to the insurance? And I'm like,
Wow.
you wouldn't believe me if I told you what happened. Like, I had insurance just for that period for me to go into treatment. I had not worked in a year, so I wasn't covered on my job. My lawyer tried to figure out how did I get the insurance, and I told him he don't get it.
Mhm. There's a song
He
that
don't get
says,
it.
"While you trying to figure it out, the Lord already worked it out." So,
There you
wow,
go.
that's
There you
that's
go.
that's
There you
that's
go.
amazing. So now your experience from that particular facility, what did life look like for you after that?
I was faced with a decision, LaMondré. It's the first time I ever been in treatment. I've never done this before in my life, and I just decided. Actually, I went to treatment with drugs. While my daughter was taking me to the airport, I had her stop at every gas station along the way because I want hot dogs when really I was running in the bathroom to smoke crack. I went through two airports, TSA and all of that with my drugs, getting high, missing planes and everything. When I got to the treatment program, I had enough drugs to last me for maybe 2 weeks, but I don't know. I just stopped. I said, if if you go through this door, which because it's an intake area, if you go through this door with this stuff, you might as well just turn around and get back on the plane and go home because it's not going to make any difference.
Mm.
Nothing's gonna work here. You're not gonna do anything if you go through this door with these drugs. I didn't know what to do with them. I'd never been to treatment. I didn't know that people come with drugs all the time. I didn't know if they were gonna call the police on me or whatever. So I hid them in the trash can up under the trash bag in the nurse's office, and that's where I left them. And I walked through that door, LaMondré, with the determination that if nothing else, I was gonna give it a try.
Mhm.
And if it did not work, I always could go back home and pick up where I left off. That's not a problem. That's gonna always be there. But let's see what's on this side of the table because I've never been sober. I've been drinking since I've been 5. I didn't have
Mm.
a me to get back to. Like some people they start off later on in life and it's like, oh well, I have to get back to myself, my old self. I didn't have an old self to get back to. But instead of
Mhm.
folding under that fear and that pressure, it's like, okay, I don't have a self to get back to. So who do I want to be?
Right.
We're
So
gonna
there
look
was
at this
a
like
so there was the
build a
invention,
bear.
right? There was the
Right.
invention of who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Like build a bear. We go build the bear. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna put on the inside of the bear, and then we're gonna dress up, the outside of the bear. And that was my process. When I made the decision to come to California, it was not because I felt like I could run from my past. It wasn't that, but I knew that with the amount of using in my history in Columbia, South Carolina, that would be a long, hard road on recovery. And I've seen people do it multiple times and fail, and they come right back home and they fail. They come right back and they fail. We're not doing that because I'm not doing this again. They asked me where did I want to go. I don't know. Where can I go? She said, well, you can go to California. California? Like California, like the state California, the place I've always wanted to go, California.
Tupac, Dre,
She said,
yeah, California.
yeah. She said, absolutely. Wait a minute. So I go to California. I don't have any money. I don't have any clothes, any shoes. I don't have a job. I don't have anything. I can go to California and I'm going to live there. Like, just be there. They're going to feed me. She said, all you need is a plane ticket. I called my sister Tanya. She bought me a plane ticket. I stepped off the plane in Santa Ana, California. I did not even know the person that picked me up from the airport. I'd never been here before. But when I walked into that house at the treatment center, this $5-6 million house with the white marble floors, and I mean, we talking about housewives of the rich and famous here. And I'm like, okay, this is treatment. I don't know about this, but let's see what happens. And I did. I went in the groups. I started taking my recovery serious. I started working on my issues. I started talking about my trauma. I started letting go of those resentments. I started letting go of the hate and the anger that I had towards people. I forgave everybody.
Mm.
I just did like a blanket forgiveness. I forgave the person that molested me. I forgave my mom for abandoning me. I forgave the person that raped me. I forgave my husband that beat me up for 20 years. I mean, I forgave everybody because it was over and it was done. I can't undo it. There is no time travel for us to go back and make this not happen. I cannot let this hold me hostage and prisoner anymore. And I thought that that was it and I was okay. It was not. I had
Mm.
one person left that I had not forgiven. That was Keisha.
Mhm.
I had to forgive Keisha. I had to go back and talk to little Keisha and tell her that I'm sorry I didn't protect you back then. I had to go talk to Keisha when she's starting on the heavy drugs. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't lead you a different way. I went through every horrific phase of my life and I forgave myself.
Right.
I let go of those resentments towards myself. And then I decided there's no more Keisha or Kiki. This is Miss Keisha. Moving forward, I changed the way that I look. I changed the way that I dress. I changed the way that I think. I changed the way that I treat people. I changed my expectations. I changed my morals, my values. I just build a bear. So now we have this new creature, and I don't know her too much, but I like her. I like her style. When I look in the mirror and I see that girl, I was like, okay, I see you. Now it's my responsibility, LaMondré. I have to take this thing and twist it and I have to give it back because it's not mine to keep. I have a debt. I owe him a lot because there's nothing, absolutely nothing that I did through all of those years that kept me from drowning. It was
Yeah.
everything through his grace and his mercy. It's nothing spectacular about Keisha at all. But I don't walk in fear because I know who my daddy is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have a debt to him. I have a debt to society. I have a debt to other addicts because I'm walking, living, breathing proof. You can't tell me what you can't do because
Yeah.
whatever you've done, I've done it 10 times. And I promise I did it better than you. It doesn't have to stay that way. We don't have to stay there. My past does not dictate my future.
Absolutely.
Even with 37 felonies and all these trips to prison, this, that, and the third, when I came out here and decided I was going to work in this field, I went forward in prayer and I moved on the word of what God told me. My first day in treatment, when He said, this is your season. All your life, you asked me to let you be a light into the world. He said, I gave you that light and you took it and you put a blanket on it. It's now time to take that blanket off, and the world is going to see my light through you. He said, I'm going to bless you beyond anything that you have ever imagined. And Lamondre, I heard him just like I hear you in this conversation that we're having. And he
Hmm.
has honored that every step of the way. It has been one blessing after the next, after the next, after the next. And it's not about the Louis Vuitton bags or the convertible Camaro. But yeah, I got all of that.
Hmm.
But it's the peace of mind that I have when I come in here at night and I look on my desk and there's a letter from one of my clients. Miss Keisha, I thank you for helping me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. I thank you. There's just a sense of peace when you can help another person that you can't put a dollar amount on.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
was given an opportunity, Lamondre, and I took it and I ran with it. I'm talking about run like Forrest Gump. I don't doubt myself today. I'm not where I want to be, but it's not time yet. It's coming.
Right.
It's coming. Changing my surroundings was the best thing that I have ever done. I had limited exposure. All I knew was fighting, drinking, working hard, slaving, like all of that, watching my grandparents work, their fingers to the bones, and still just being able to just, be at
Just
this
get by.
level,
Right.
just get by, and just working themselves into the ground. And that was my norm. I'd never been exposed to any type of wealth or any type of real money or any different ways of living. Being in Orange County, it's the norm.
Right.
It's the norm here. It's almost like it's expected. It's you drive down the street, you see Bentleys and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Porsches, and then you have an opportunity when I'm in Trader Joe's and I have an opportunity to speak to this lady that just got out of this Bentley. She ain't that much different from me.
Mhm.
You know, she's a person, she's human, she's real. Like a lot of times the only type of exposure that we have to any real wealth is on TV
Oh
or
yeah.
in a rap video.
Oh yeah, and it becomes almost unobtainable, or you believe that you have to be the drug dealer, or you have to be the super duper star, or you have to be the star athlete. You didn't know that no, you could actually be a dentist.
Right.
You could actually be just an
Ex-
ordinary everyday person. So here's the thing that I do want to get to as well, because as I said, there
Uh-huh.
is so much to your story that we really can't get into right now. So I'm definitely going to have you back. But I want to so you have a mission now, and that mission is
Mhm.
to help. As far as it's stated here, it says is to help as many addicts as I can to see their full potential. You can't reach for the potential if you can't even see it. And that's basically one of the
Mhm.
things that we're talking about right now. I want people to understand where you are now. Obviously, you live in Orange County, California. You've been
Mhm.
successful in staying clean. How long have you been clean?
I've been clean 20 months now.
Beautiful. 20
I
months.
haven't even reached 2 years yet.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that is fantastic. That is fantastic. And so we celebrate that. We celebrate those 20
Yes.
months. We definitely celebrate those 20 months. And I want you to tell people, so where are you now? What are you doing now? I know you have a degree from.
From Purdue, I have my bachelor's degree in psychology from Purdue. I am in the master's program now at the University of Phoenix. My graduation is the end of 2025, early 2026. From that, I plan to go on and sit for my license, take the exam to get my LMFT license. I work
LMFT, what is
at
that?
four
All those acronyms. LMFT,
licensed
what is that?
marriage family therapists.
There you go. All right.
Yep. And I work at four treatment centers. I'm a facilitator and a master facilitator at that, and a case manager at one. There's a program coordinator position that I'm getting ready to walk into. And then there's Serenity Groups, which is my business, and I subcontract at two other treatment centers where I work for myself just in their facility.
Right.
And I also have something called Idols that I'm trying to put together with my daughter because, as you know, she's a social worker and she's been in the field of helping people years before I even, entered this realm. So I have really, really big plans. My end goal, though, Lamondre, is to I want to kind of redo the way treatment is done out here. I
Mhm.
think we need a little bit more clinical services on the back end. Like here is heavy in the beginning, and then you kind of fade out with your therapy and your counseling and your meetings and all of that. And then I'm noticing a trend where it's anywhere from 60 to 90 days outside of treatment. A lot of us are going back. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking if I can put together something where the sober living is not just a residence, but you have services that are available within the sober living so that you can have some sort of treatment on the back end of your recovery journey.
Right, right. Well, I tell
Yeah,
you,
and I want to get
if there's anyone that I believe that could help implement that, I believe it definitely is you. When you hear of just the things that you've accomplished since um, since really committing to I'm going to say inventing yourself. Whenever
Mhm.
we think about whenever I think about this show and what I wanted to do with this platform, you're the very person that I'm thinking about. Someone who comes to a point in their life that they realize, wait a minute, I need to find out who I am. I need to find out who I am. And if I am not who I am, how do I become who I am? And you did the inside work. And obviously, you just mentioned your daughter, who is a social worker. So you've reconciled relationships. You've
Oh
done the
yeah.
work. You've done the work, and you're continuing to do the work because it's not like you've arrived, but it's like
Right.
it's a daily thing. And you said something earlier that I absolutely disagree with. I understand what you
Okay.
meant. I understand what you meant. You said you're not spectacular, but you are. You are spectacular. And let me tell you why I say that you're spectacular. You're an ordinary person that was facing extraordinary odds, who was involved in impossible situations, but you turned it around. You turned it around and you said, wait a minute, I realize that I have messed up and that I'm messed up. But there's an opportunity for not only recreation or, as you said, invention, but there's an
Mhm.
opportunity for redemption. And not only
Mhm.
is there an opportunity for redemption, but there's an opportunity to help other people be redeemed as well. And for me, I often say it's not about the Herculean efforts that we all involve ourselves in, but it's the aggregate of us doing what we can in our small corner of the world to change the world. That's how we make this place
Amen.
better. That's how we make this world better. And that's what you've done, my friend. And I'll tell you, as I think about as I think about your journey and I think about since the day that I met you, you have always been just the most kind and willing to help person. That's just who you are. So it doesn't surprise me at
Thank
all
you.
that Serenity Groups and Consulting is has taken off, and that you're doing things to better other people. What I want to do
Thank
at
you.
this point, oh, you're welcome. It's all flowers, baby. It's all flowers. What I want to do at this point,
Yeah.
though, I want to ask you this question. It's a question that I'm asking all of my guests, and it's the final question, basically, the final real
Okay.
question, put it that way. And that is,
Okay.
if you could ascend to the highest peak on planet Earth and deliver a message that everyone would hear, understand, and potentially internalize, what would that message be?
Let it go.
Mm.
Let it go. Whatever it is that is holding you back or holding you hostage or causing you pain, shame, turmoil, regret, resentments, whatever it is, let it go. It is impossible for us to go back, not even to the beginning of this conversation that you and I had. We cannot go back. So if it's something, that's where my serenity prayer comes in. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So if I could tell people anything, it would be let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Let it go. Miss Keisha, I know I've been running your contact information so that if anybody wants to get in contact with you, they certainly can.
Great.
And
Great.
you mentioned your book within in the
Mhm.
process of this interview. I'm going to in the show notes. I'm going to put it to where they can get your book and they can
Okay,
order it from
great.
you and
Thank you.
we'll definitely promote that. I want to thank you for being transparent. I want to thank you for being willing to share your story on this platform.
Definitely.
that it's going to touch someone. I know it's going to help someone, encourage someone, and I hope it challenges people to
Exactly.
really look at their lives and to look at what they want their lives to be in
Mhm.
terms of invention. And it's so interesting because there's so many things that are going through my head right now, in terms of things that we talked about, like it not being about the substance, it was about the addiction.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
and that how most people would picture a person who was struggling with a crack, heroin, and alcohol addiction, that they would have been the folks that, that you see on the corners. And we know that that happens a lot of
Yeah.
times, but that's not
Yeah.
necessarily it, because you were
I mean, because
completely
even
functioning.
with you, when I had conversations with you previously, you didn't know I was strung out,
I had no idea. I had no idea.
but I was.
The funny part about it is you told me. You told me. I remember having a conversation with you, and you didn't say, "Hey, I'm strung out now." But what you did say
Uh,
in this conversation, you looked at me in my eyes and you said to me, "I could be strung out right now and no one would ever know it, because what I do is I keep it together and I have everything just keep it moving just like it was always." And the whole time I'm sitting here thinking, I bet you she's telling me she's strung out right now. But it wasn't my place to
I
do that. But
was.
I remember you saying that to me, and that's the thought that went through my head. And so, in other words, what
Mhm.
I'm trying to say to anybody that's listening right now, it's not about what it looks like. It's not about, well, if somebody has a house and a car, or they're well dressed,
Exactly.
or they're articulate. It's not about that. It's not about that this person's on the street corner and they've lost everything
Right.
and they're holding up a sign,
Exactly.
or we can make them do a silly
Exactly.
dance, in order to get a
Exactly.
couple of dollars. Let me tell you something. People are people.
Yes.
And as
Yes.
I mentioned before, every single one of us has the capacity to do anything. I'm talking about the good. I'm talking about the bad. I'm talking about the beautiful. I'm talking about the ugly. All of us have the
Yes.
capacity to do it all, and it resides in us. So, therefore, there is no one better than anyone, and there is no one
Mm.
beneath anyone. The truth is,
Amen.
we're all very complex, and we all come to this
Mhm.
place trying to just figure it out. So grant some grace
Yes.
along your journey, because it can so easily be either you or I. It can so easily be you or I,
Yeah.
and it can so easily be us that turns it around for ourselves and someone else as well. So, Miss Keisha, thank you again. I love you. I
Thank
love
you.
you so
I
much,
love you
and
too.
absolutely. And I believe, just let me say this to you as well. We're going to see you on stages. We're going to see you on stages. We're going to see you on platforms. We're going to see you spreading your message of redemption, of creation, of love, of it's possible. We're going to see that. And I am going to be thrilled, to help support that and to help you do that.
Amen.
All right.
I'm
Thank
getting
you so
ready.
much. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
LaMondré. Take care.
Yes, yes, yes. Ooh, ooh. Listen, an incredible conversation. I'll tell you, the only limit on that conversation was time. That's the only limit to that conversation this time. And so I'm definitely going to have Keisha back. We're going to have Keisha back on the program so you can really hear other facets of her story that we did not get into, but obviously some things were mentioned there that lead you to know that there are other pieces of it. So I want to thank you, for taking the time to listen, to watch this. And I want you to remember, this is the kind of program that I want to bring to people. I want to bring stories of triumph, of change, and I want people to glean some inspiration, some motivation, some challenge, some push from this, so that people can indeed change their lives with this. Remember, we are in the throes of reaching goal 141. That's 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, 4,000 watch hours on YouTube, and 1,000 downloads on the various other platforms. And remember, we are a video and audio podcast. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can definitely catch us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on wherever you get your audio podcast, we are there, and we certainly want to build this community. So if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to us. If you're listening to this, download the stream, drop us a review. We greatly appreciate it because we really want to continue to push good content out there. Whew. I tell you, I am so full. And so, as always, if you're living, you might as well live that big, full, and authentic life. Listen, baby, that's why you're here. Until next time, God bless.